Hope is a Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without the words, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I have heard it in the chillest land, and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Emily Dickinson was born on December 10, 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts, where she lived for her entire life. Emily spent most of her time writing literature, mainly poetry. She wrote nearly 1,800 poems, but only published 10. Her education was strongly influenced by Puritan religious beliefs, but Dickinson did not accept the teachings of the Unitarian Church attended by her family and remained agnostic throughout her life. She began writing verse at an early age, practicing her craft by rewriting poems she found in books, magazines, and newspapers. Dickinson experienced an emotional crisis of an undetermined nature in the early 1860s. Her traumatized state of mind is believed to have inspired her to write prolifically in 1862. Through her poetry, she explored the inner workings of herself, her heart, her mind, and her soul. The poems of this period talk of suffering and healing, death and immortality, despair and hope. Dickinson died on May 15th in 1886. Her poem, Hope is a Thing with Feathers, tends to include a wide range of figurative language in order to emphasize the message she is trying to convey. The poem may be seen to be written to honor the human capacity of hope. She uses an extended metaphor to portray hope as a bird living within the human soul, where it stays lively no matter the circumstances. The poem doesn't directly state that hope is a bird, rather Dickinson leaves it to the reader to come up with that interpretation. Right off the bat, in line 1, Hope is a Thing with Feathers, Dickinson uses imagery for her audience to indicate that there is an extended metaphor of a bird being hope. The poem is meant to describe hope as something that goes through rough times but always survives it at the end of the day. On line 6, and sore must be the storm, Dickinson uses alliteration to connect the words and explain how there is pain in a storm to emphasize the struggles of life. In line 2, that perches in the soul, Dickinson uses personification by using the word purchase, which means to physically rest and live in, to show how hope is always within our souls and never leaves us. In line 3, and sings the tune without the words, she uses a paradox to depict how hope makes an inspirational impact by doing the smallest things. Imagery is seen in line 7, I've heard it in the chilliest land, to show the perseverance of hope even during extreme weathers, which actually means even during the worst moments of life. Lastly, imagery is also seen in the last line, it asked a crumb of me, showing how a person who perseveres doesn't necessarily depend on the encouragement of others rather than oneself. Dickinson's poem is a rhyme poem that follows an irregular rhyme scheme of A, B, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, H, H, H. Her poem consists of 3 quatrain stanzas. Hope is the Thing with Feathers alternates between an 8 and 6 syllable iambic scheme called a common meter. This hymen meter allowed Dickinson to experiment with language and imagery. My name is Andrea Moreno. I am a 17-year-old senior at Pembroke Pines Charter High School. I love the idea of peace, I love nature and hanging out with my friends, and I love volunteering and bringing back to my community. My entire life, as most, have consisted of obstacles, whether it was during gymnastics or during school. There have been many times when I have doubted myself constantly. When I came across this poem, it served as a reminder of how I could change my perspective in life. I used Dickinson's poem to remind myself that there is always hope, and with it, I can use it to motivate myself even during times when I feel like I have hit rock bottom. I use it as a way to look at the bright side of things, and not only do I have hope, but the hope itself allows me to realize how the doubt I am feeling will only last for a minute or two. Hope is a Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune without the words, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I have heard it in the chillest land, and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.